We all have a wounded child in us. Childhood reactions that we formed at that time. So we need to heal that. I had a family who did not talk about emotions. When we have caregivers that aren't comfortable with their own emotions, they're not going to be comfortable with their children's emotions. So before we know it, we start to shave off the okay or the acceptable emotions in a family. And so either we're left with none being acceptable and we just don't talk about emotions. This was very much my family. Or we're left with only the handful of acceptable emotions. And then we internalize this, and then we carry that into our adulthood. So now I'm the person in the relationship who doesn't address anything emotions, and I run from the conversation when I know when the person's across me saying, we gotta talk, I'm like, I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Right. Maybe I'm on my spaceship now because I don't want to talk about emotion. That's scary to me. Or we become only these emotions are okay to talk about. So, and I think this is, again, passed down through generations. Likely our caregivers grow up in families where these emotions weren't okay and they were unsafe. That's what it comes down to. We have to feel like that we have no other option. That the option of life as we know it now is way more intolerable than the fear that comes along with change in general. And again, back to something I said earlier, we humans are habitual creatures, and to some extent we view change or uncertainty as threatening. And there's a function now that I'm very much aware of the power of our subconscious. So the simplest way I describe it, and this is why I will always say change is hard. It's universally hard for all of us. I want to normalize that, though. I mean this when I say this, because I think a lot of people become really self-deprecating. I'm lazy. I'm undisciplined. I just can't do this. I'm hopeless. When they realize change, when they live the experience of change being hard. The reason why change is hard is so our subconscious, it's a silly description, but I say we each have a little avatar. You have a Lewis one. I have a Nicole one. So because what our subconscious has done, and this blows my mind, it has logged every experience that we've had on this thus far until today, and will continue to log every experience we have in life until we're no longer on this planet, which is a lot of shit. And because we're very habitual, we need our subconscious. So this is me saying, thank you, subconscious. We need it to some extent, because without some things automatized, some things in that program, if I had to wake up every day and remind myself and consciously think about being human, brushing my teeth, we would be debilitated. So we need this. However, what happens is because we're so habitual, what is in there are our behavioral habits. It more or less knows what we do first thing in the morning, last thing before bed. Knows the habitual thoughts that we think. It knows how those thoughts make us feel, right? So it has our little avatar. It registers things in a very black and white way. This is a very simplified description. It registers things in a very black and white way. The one end of the spectrum being familiar equals safe, good. Unfamiliar equals unsafe, possibly even threatening, bad. Right? So logically, right, you might sit across from me and you might say, I want to start this new habit first thing in the morning, or I'm going to start to say new affirmations. I am good enough, or I want to give myself a feeling of peace. All I know is stress. Tomorrow comes and you give yourself one of those. You make the choice to have one of those new experiences, and your subconscious is going to register that as unfamiliar. And then one of two, maybe both things are going to happen. What I call mental chatter, the endless litany of reasons why not to do or never to do this thing again. It sucks, it's terrible, it's bad for you. It's hard. Or dangerous. Oh, what are you doing? And or, because some of us get this, we'll start to feel, whether it's physiological, an agitation. Sometimes it'll be described, I'm just crawling out of my skin. Sometimes I just won't feel like me. I'll start to feel weird. And again, that is the power of the subconscious. So for both of those reasons, before I know it, I'm right back in that comfort zone. I'm doing back what I'm used to doing, thinking, feeling, because it's familiar. So that's why change is hard. So what the language I use is a small daily promise. And I put emphasis on that small, because I know, speaking about expectations again, we as humans can tend to, and a lot of us, I'm a perfectionist, set the bar so high up for ourselves that is so damaging, because what we're looking for is consistency. That's what this means, to heal holistically, to create habits. It's not every other day we do it, or maybe this time and then next week I'll try it again. It's doing this each day. But the higher the bar is, if I don't meet that bar, I become so disempowered. I'm not going to show up and try to meet that bar again tomorrow. Hell no. I'd rather do any other thing on the planet. So setting up those small expectations. This is also what I suggest. Notice each and every time you kept that promise, because that's, you get what I say, getting past your mind, right? So the more you show yourself that consistency, and the way I put it is we're rebuilding trust in ourselves. Most of us have, I say, self-betrayal. Most of us have started to not trust ourselves and not trust our word, because we don't keep our word to ourselves, because change is hard. right? So this is all interconnected. So we have to rebuild trust, we have to show ourselves that we're keeping those promises. And we can't expect our subconscious to get on board. I joke and I say, we can't wait for that cheerleading squad, and some of us wait to want to, or to feel like we want to. So I'm always on my story saying, I don't want to do this shit, but I'm doing it anyway. Because I've now built a trust in myself that I keep my word, and my subconscious still gives me all of the reasons not to do it, even years later into this. But the more you keep those promises and notice yourself keeping them, you start to trust yourself. And you start to get a little bit more empowered, getting beyond that mind. We all have a wounded child in us. Again, whether or not some of us have lived through those big T traumas, the abuses, the neglect, the big stuff. Some of us have just lived with an underlying unmet need, a lack of emotional love, I see trauma in and of itself as not being seen just for the heard and understood as just a unique being, as being enough without how you're showing up in the world. So I think we all carry a wound. So I think it's necessary. I think it's important because I know what's happening in those moments of reactivity where we're triggered and when we're expressing our feelings very outwardly, whether we're tantruming or we're dissociated. Those are all those old childhood reactions that we formed at that time. So we need to heal that and need to give ourselves some new options. I actually had someone ask me, though, and I think this is really interesting to think about, whether or not we get to that place where that wound is gone, whether or not it goes away. Is that our goal of healing? And I don't believe, and I've yet to have any experiences or evidence that we get to the place where our wound is gone, but I think our goal is to navigate life with that wound, knowing when it's being touched, knowing how to make ourselves feel better when it's there, knowing how to, first and foremost, I should have said this, break that habitual way of reacting toward it and giving ourselves a bit more new choices, helping our relationships in those moments, and then, like I said, giving ourselves those deeper needs to be met on our own.